We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand and we'll both try to understand how this Vexilla Logic podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content. What's up, Vex heads, and welcome to episode 43 of Flagged for Content. It's the only podcast where the host wears a shirt that says, "What's up, Vex heads? Flagged for content." It's good and recursive like that. Anyway, it's also a Flags for Good podcast, as I mention every week, and you can, in fact, go to flagsforgood.com/flagged4 content and use the promo code spelled the same way, flagged4content, and you can get 10% off an increasing number of very cool flags over there. I'll keep it briefer this week, but as many of you know, I went to NAVA 57 a couple weeks ago, and it was incredible. I got to meet so many cool people, put faces to names, get business cards, schmooze, all that stuff. And just like hang out with a lot of people that, like, many of them younger than me, which I tried not to get too much in my feelings about. I thought I was one of the younger ones, but no, I'm honestly glad to see that I'm not. There was high school kids there that know more than I do about flags. It's incredible. This 57 was a real turning point for NAVA that I will get into a little bit more on the top level of our Patreon, actually, which is a nice transition here. I am going to be uploading some of my NAVA notes, my videos, my pictures. I'll put a few of them out, obviously, on the Instagram, the social media stuff. But I'm going to have a couple top-level Patreon-specific episodes that are about NAVA. I am admittedly a couple episodes behind on that tier. So, I think this is a good use of getting a few of them out there. Also, at the $5 level, as I mentioned last episode, you get companion pieces to the regular episodes, where the guest and I will chat a little bit after the main part of the episode about anything we maybe didn't have time for, or, wasn't maybe like totally on the schedule, or maybe, just chat about flags, if it comes down to that kind of basic level. But in any case, that starts with this episode. So patrons can jump over there to Patreon after the episode for a little bit of extra at the end of it. Jeremy and I will chat a little bit more, but that's it. I hate long intros. I know I just did one, but let's go ahead and get into the episode where I talk to Jeremy Matthews all about the Golden Wattle flag, flags for Australia, everything to do with it. This one was a lot of fun. I know you guys are going to enjoy this. So yeah, sit back and past Andy, take it away. Folks, we have, you're not going to believe it, yet another amazing guest this week. You know him as the designer of the Golden Wattle flag. You know him from Instagram as Flags for Australia, and you know him as being the first Aussie on this show. It's Jeremy Matthews!
Wow.
What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, Andy. Great introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I always come in with too much energy because I'm trying to shame the other person, I think.
Yeah.
And it usually
it is a little embarrassing. Yeah. It's embarrassing to see your name called out in such enthusiasm.
Yeah. It's all in good fun. Dude, how are things down in Australia right now? You are waking up as I'm going to sleep, I think.
Yeah, it's about 11 a.m. here.
Right?
Yeah, it's the weather's good. We had the weatherman last week announced that El Nino had struck, and so we had some unseasonably hot, sort of summery weather, which people in Sydney love. So everyone headed off to the beach in spring. And everything's otherwise, it's great. Great weather, nice day.
Awesome. Yeah. Can't complain. You could tell me the weather there and I would not understand it because it'd be in Celsius. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah. As long as so the reason that I've never gone to Australia, the only reason, is just because everything in Australia seems like it wants to kill me.
Yeah. There's a lot of that here. Yeah, it can be dangerous for visitors, particularly. Yeah, and there's a lot of scary animals. Most of them are not in the city, so that's fine. Um, though, you know, there are little spiders and things like that which can cause problems. They're in the sea as well. Um, yeah, it's a dangerous place basically. And it's amazing I'm even alive to speak to you right now.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like it's incredible that like you're the first person we've had on from Australia because all the others have died before the recording date. Um, like
They were stung
everybody
by
else has
something
been,
or
yeah, kicked to death by a kangaroo. One of them, a dingo, ate them because they were a baby.
yeah.
There's been a lot of stuff. I don't know why I was interviewing a baby, but here we go. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it's
another story for another day.
right, exactly, and we'll get to that on the Patreon. But dude, no, it's great to finally have an Aussie on. So,
Well,
speaking of
thank you for
that,
having me.
yeah, dude, the pleasure is all mine. I am going to give the Bex heads a little bit of a rundown on what we're going over today. We have our usual over and underrated flags. We'll have Jeremy's favorite flag. We will get into the current Australia flag, kind of go over like why it needs replacing, talk about what could replace it, and then kind of wrap things up there. But first, before we get to any of that, Jeremy, I like to ask my guests, what is your favorite flag with a U this time?
Oh, it's a hard one. So many great flags that I just love. I mean, I love the South African flag. I love the Canadian flag. The Nordic
Mm.
cross flags are all beautiful.
Yeah, preaching to the choir.
Is it, yeah, the Tokyo Metropolis flag is just. Have you seen that before?
Yeah,
Beautiful flag.
yeah.
Um, but I'm going to pick something local. My favorite flag is the Aboriginal flag.
Okay, I am
Unsurprisingly.
no, unsurprisingly slash a little bit surprisingly because this is one that has not come up at all on the show
Oh,
before.
really? Okay. Wow. Wow.
Somehow it may be in passing, but like we haven't like spent any time on it.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was hoping that we would, and like I can't think of anybody better to kind of go over it than you. So yeah, what is it that you like so much about this flag, and like what does it symbolize, not just for the flag, but like to you?
Hmm. Well, if you haven't seen the flag before, it's a black and red bicolor with a yellow disc in the center. The black symbolizes Aboriginal people. The red represents the red earth, the ochre, the outback, and the yellow symbolizes the sun, so the giver of life, as it's referred to. Um, for me personally, it was first flown in 1971 in Adelaide, South Australia, which is where I grew up as a kid, and I was born in 1971. So I kind of grew up with this flag around me. I guess it was on television a lot, and initially it was sort of seen more as a protest flag for Aboriginal land rights,
Right.
and then I think as a kid, I probably didn't really understand what it meant. It was kind of striking to see a flag that had black on it, and it's such contrast to the red, white, and blue of the
Uh
current
huh.
Australian flag. And um, yeah, and then sort of over time, really quite a short time, it became this sort of symbol of pride and identity for Aboriginal people across the whole nation, which is kind of amazing. Um, yeah, and you know, I, the meaning of it. I mean, I like the fact that so the designer of the flag is a guy called Harold Thomas,
Hmm.
and I've always thought it was interesting that the black on the bicolor is on top of the red, and it's sort of almost counterintuitive. You expect the darker color to be on the bottom, just to kind of visually get the balance
For
right.
like
But
visual weight, yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
so I think he said that that was an intentional thing. He wanted the flag to be kind of striking and almost unsettling, but also meaning wise, it represents Aboriginal people walking on top of the earth. So they're their relationship with the land, their spiritual relationship with the land, I guess, and which goes back sort of, they have ancestral ties that go back sort of millennia. So it has this kind of amazing meaning in it that is, a lot of depth of meaning, I guess, which is kind of incredible for just essentially three colored geometric shapes.
Right. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's always been for me, having designed a lot of flags. That's kind of like a benchmark for me of how you can um, create such meaning in such simple shapes, I guess, and and I always try and measure up to that. I don't think I've ever reached it, but yeah, it's a very sort of striking flag, in my opinion. Beautiful. Yeah,
It's
that's it, I guess.
absolutely striking. Like yeah, it's like the color scheme alone does grab you. Is it the same? Let's just say, okay, Angola has a red top, black bottom instead of the other way
That's
around, like
right.
you
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
And a yellow central element, which is
Mm-hmm.
obviously different than the one the Aboriginal one does. But yeah, it's something very like. So, would you say that that was kind of like what lit the fire under you a little bit to kind of like go out and maybe start creating these flags, or got you interested in the whole design process, or?
It did a little bit, for sure, and I mean, also, so my flag, the Golden Wattle flag, was I think it was designed in around 2015, which is when the New Zealand flag debate was kind of kicking off. So
Mhm.
in Australia, there was a lot of discussion around, what would happen if New Zealand changed their flag? That would mean Australia would have to change their flag, and what would that look like? And you can see behind. Um, and so that was kind of also an impetus for me to design my own flag, contribute to that discussion, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but the Aboriginal flag more from just sort of a design perspective and meaning. It's always been a sort of, like I said, a benchmark of you know great flag design that I would try to measure up to.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, that's pretty much the answer that I assumed you would give.
Hmm.
Not in that it's pretty much what I would have thought, what I would have done, given the circumstances and everything else like going into it. Because like a lot of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we'll get into it, but like a lot of what you do does play into the like let's make sure and include everybody in this flag thing, which the current one, another thing we'll get into, does not does not
yeah.
quite do.
I would agree. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Which again, stay tuned,
Uh,
y'all. We will get into it. But before we get into it, let's all right, that's your favorite. Let's do the over and
yeah.
underrated.
Okay. Um, so I guess my overrated flag. This may be a little controversial, but I'm going to say the Australian national flag.
Oh, what? This one right here?
Yeah, yeah. I,
No way.
I feel like, yeah, it's just a tad overrated.
Hmm.
And why, you may ask?
I may and I will.
uh, and you will, yeah. I guess as an Australian, I would say it sort of fails to represent our nationhood and independence. I think having the Union Jack and the Canton kind of implies that we're governed by the UK, or we're sort of a dependency of the UK, and which is sort of contradictory to the reality. We're
Hmm.
fully independent, self-governing nation, have been for a long time. Um, so I also think it kind of fails to represent a national identity in the sense that it looks more British than Australian.
Yep. Yep.
um, which sort of diminishes Australia's our own national identity in a way. I mean, we have this great set of uh, symbols and colours that we should be using, but instead we use really Britain's colours. So, yeah, and it'd be really nice for Australians to have a flag that was authentically and distinctly their own, like every other nation in the world.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think it does, as you mentioned, fails to kind of equally represent all Australians. The purpose of the flag's not really to exclusively represent British heritage. It should inclusively represent all Australians. And so I just think a flag that kind of marginalises some people, a national flag that marginalises some people, just works against that purpose of being inclusive.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, and I think also, I can't speak on behalf of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, but a colonial flag is really symbolically represents dispossession and oppression. Colonialism was a brutal historical event for them, and
Right. That's hard to argue against, I think.
yeah, I think so too. Yeah, yeah. So that's a lot of the reasons why I feel like it's an overrated flag. I feel like we could do a little better.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty much for every reason you said. Like, I mean, chief among them for me anyway is the fact that it can easily be confused for other flags. Now, like the Australian flag is probably the most high profile of the UK, like the Union Jack in Canton
Mm,
flags that there
yeah,
are that
the
exist.
blue ensigns. Yeah.
But even yeah, exactly. But even then, as viewers can see behind me, there is also the New Zealand, the NZ flag, which is very similar. It
Yeah.
also has a Southern Cross. They take out one of the smaller stars of the Southern Cross, and they don't have the seven pointed star that viewers can see here for Australia.
Hmm.
But other than that, very, very similar. And New Zealand does take the extra step. Well, actually, that's not fair. Australia does this too, but New Zealand has the Tino Rangatira Tonga flag, which I'll briefly for the
Hmm.
viewers. It is
Love
draped
that flag.
over there. Yeah, and that is a flag that is for an ethnic group, for a people, basically, that were there long before any Europeans were.
Yeah,
Australia, like you
exactly.
said, does have the Aboriginal flag for that. They have the Torres Island flag for that, which we'll get
Hmm.
into a little bit more of those. But um, yeah, I had a question actually from a listener, and this might be the best place to drop it in.
Sure.
Um, do you think that the New Zealand flag referendum of I forget what year, but a few years ago,
2015, I
somewhere,
think.
yes, thank you. Do you think that that had any bearing on Australia kind of kicking things more into gear to get a different flag on their end?
I think that was the hope. I think in a way it probably set us back,
Mm,
in the
okay.
sense that it failed. And it failed, and I think it would be potentially for any politician in Australia to kind of take that cause on. They would look at New Zealand and think, well, I'm not going to. Why would I risk that?
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think a lot of us, those Australians who would like the flag changed, I think they're hoping that when Australia becomes a republic, which is on the cards as well, that may trigger a flag change. So I don't think there's any. I think only one country in the Commonwealth, one republic in the Commonwealth, should I say, that still uses a British blue ensign is Fiji. So um, every other republic has changed their flag.
Yeah. Jamaica comes to
Yeah,
mind. Yeah.
in the Commonwealth. Yeah, in the Commonwealth, that is. In fact, in the Commonwealth of Nations, I think there's about 56 countries. Only four of them still use deface blue ensigns as their national flag, and Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and Tuvalu.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, most Commonwealth countries retired their sort of old
Right.
colonial flags to museums like decades ago.
Yeah. And if we're being honest, like Australia is the most high profile of those that you just listed. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously we love New Zealand. We love our Kiwi fans and listeners. No, I just like I guess like part of the reason for even and it was a good question asked by Alex, but like part of the reason for asking that was, you know, if one goes a certain way, does the other
Hmm.
kind of thing. And because we saw that New Zealand did not change it, and Australia, it wasn't in question, but they also did not change it.
Yeah.
Um, One of the big questions
I,
I have is, oh, sorry.
yeah, I think if New Zealand did change, I think that would have definitely been an impetus for Australia to follow. And there was already at that time there was just literally hundreds and hundreds of alternate Australian flag designs erupting around the world, and
Yeah,
particularly
actually,
Australia. Obviously, it was like really an exciting time for flag designers in this part of the world. So yeah, it was a shame it didn't come.
yeah, I have people that ask me questions for like, who I'm going to interview this week and everything. And a lot of people both told me to ask that question and like kind of at least insinuated that like for New Zealand to do much, it might need to be Australia that does it first.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh.
not their words, but kind of reading between the lines a little bit. Um, I don't know. Again, my words and their words, not yours. But it is interesting to think like the two countries are so interrelated,
We are definitely, we're very very close with New Zealand, and we feel
yeah,
a strong
like not
affinity
just
with them.
geographically, but yeah.
Yeah, there are lots
I
of
don't know.
similarities. And, yeah,
Interesting to think about. I would like to think that
yeah.
if one changes, the other might as well. And now that New Zealand has failed to change, that could be y'all doing it first and them doing it after. Whereas it
Yeah,
looks like it might be the other way around.
yeah. My feeling is it kind of set back that the
Mhm.
opportunity to change. I just think it's yeah, but one day we'll see.
I mean, well, it's coming. Like honestly, and okay, so that was your overrated. What's your underrated flag?
So my most underrated flag is the Australian South Sea Islanders flag.
Okay, I don't even know if I know that one.
It was designed by Australian vexillologist Tony Burton in 1984 in collaboration with the South Sea Islander people. Um, I can describe it for you if you like. It's a five colour flag. It has a black sort of vertical column on the hoist side, and in the top left in the is the Southern Cross, sort of a chunky kind of robust looking Southern Cross
Yeah.
in the canton.
Huh.
And then it's intersected the black vertical panel on the left. It's about one third the overall length of the flag is intersected by a horizontal black band, and on top of the black band is a blue panel and a green panel beneath it, and the blue and green panel is fimbriated with a yellow stripe.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a little
No,
hard.
no, no, no. It's
It's a
I can
difficult
picture
flag
it.
to describe.
No, no, I'm getting the exact experience that a lot of our
Okay.
listeners have. Not our viewers, but our listeners, where it's like, all right, I'm gonna, build that in my mind. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that looks like. If you could send it to me on Instagram, or I can go ahead and look it up. But it was the flag of what exactly?
The Australian South Sea Islander flag.
Got it. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. This is one that I've never seen. I've never seen this flag in
Oh
my life.
wow, really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's
No.
awesome.
I thought I knew like most of the. I knew the Aboriginal. I knew the Torres Strait Islanders. A few of the associated like kind of Oceania flags that are near.
Hmm.
Never seen this one. Never seen this one. This
Oh,
is
fantastic.
this is different. This is cool. You go into it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I like that how the black vertical panel kind of intersects with that horizontal black strip, and it creates this kind of geometric like Thor's hammer, which is kind of
Yeah.
unique. I don't think I've ever seen that before in a flag. Maybe another flag has done it, but it's quite distinct. So the colours represent blue represents the sea, the South Sea, obviously. Green represents the land. Black represents the South Sea Islander people and their strengths and unity. Um, and the yellow, I think, represents the sun and warmth, beaches, all those sort of nice things you sort of imagine when you think of the South Sea Islands.
Right.
Um, yeah, and the Southern Cross obviously indicates location in the South Pacific. So for me, it's I just think it's a kind of beautiful flag and almost sort of celebratory in the way that the colours are so bright and vibrant.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just
it
love it.
could
And
not be more underrated because I run a podcast for over a year and I've never heard of this thing. Um, yeah, which is not to say that I'm, the expert by any means, but yeah, I've never seen this. Uh, it does look
I,
very
I,
cool. It almost looks like a fimbriated Nordic cross that just doesn't
yeah,
have the parts next to the hoist.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I actually think I think many Australians wouldn't even know it exists. So yeah, I think it deserves a little more attention and a bit more love.
Yeah,
And that's
that
why
actually
I
was
thought
my
to
next
mention it.
question.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, South Sea Island. Is the South Sea, is that north of Australia or south of Australia? That's
It's
north, right?
northeast. Yeah, northeast. I think it's like Solomon Islands,
Okay,
Vanuatu,
okay, right.
Samoa, Loete Islands, Kiribati, Tuvalu.
Kiribati, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was going to say the only, I know the Tasman Sea is
Hmm.
where it obviously would be. But yeah, I did not know.
South.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. This,
So
yeah, no, that's very good to know. That definitely puts this one on the map, not just for the show, but for a lot of our listeners as well, I'd imagine. All right, cool. Yeah,
awesome.
right on, dude. Okay, that's our over and underrated. Let's get into the main, bit of this. You already went over a couple reasons why the current Australian flag is just like not really cutting it as far as,
Hmm.
um, basically as far as representing Australia. But could you kind of like rehash like a couple of those like really quick for us before we get into yours?
Yeah, yeah. I think the main issue for a lot of people, well, for those who are into flag change, I can't
Us,
speak for
everyone
you know
listening.
the I can't speak for the public at large, but
Uh huh.
um, having another country's flag on your flag is it's not a sort of an anti-British stance or anything like that. It's just I think a lot of Australians would like some Australians would like the flag to be representative of their country um, and not have another nation's flag on their flag.
Dude, honestly, that is like the most like succinct way that you could put that. Like, yeah, Australians want a flag that actually represents their country. Which one? Yeah, you pretty much covered it. Two, doesn't seem unreasonable or ridiculous. And
No,
three, like, is
it's what
attainable.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
what most countries do have flag that is symbolic of their has symbols or colors drawn from the place where they live. So um, and Australia in particular, I mean, has a lot of amazing kind of um, the landscape and the flora and fauna and all these things. Just a rich kind of library of symbols and images they could draw from. It
Yeah.
seems a shame not to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
No,
yeah.
totally agree. Like it, I think part of my issue too is like, every, or not every, but a lot of the flags like in your general geographic area do have the Southern Cross on them, which, to be
Hmm.
fair, in Latin is the Crux Australis. I get why it's on the Australian flag.
Yeah.
Southern Cross, Australis, Australia, sure, comes from the same Latin root, whatever. I would argue that Australia has nothing to do with Latin roots and shouldn't really be like hamstrung by these weird conventions that we hold ourselves to in other parts of the world. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the Southern Cross is on so many. It's on what? Obviously New Zealand. It's on Papua New Guinea. It's on others.
Yeah.
Other
It's
others that are in the
yeah.
area.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't particularly have a problem with the Southern Cross. I think it's a culturally kind of meaningful symbol for many Australians.
Sure.
It is. It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't specifically represent Australia. It just kind of really represents the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
But
I,
that said, it is a popular symbol.
right.
Not just because it appears on the flag, but it often is used as kind of a shorthand for Australia by Australians,
Yeah.
along with our national colours being green and gold. Um, yeah, so it's but
Right.
I,
Yeah.
but it's I still it doesn't have to be on a new Australian flag. It's I've looked at it a few times. I have a few designs that include the Southern Cross, but I don't think it's the only
Oh,
symbol we
yeah.
we need to have.
There's plenty. I looked at the was like the Australian whatever your Flag Society of Australia is, I think the
Flags. Yeah, Flags Australia.
Flags Australia.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I looked at a few of the proposed flags for Australia. Yours among them, obviously, and I
Hmm.
think it's a good time to go into that because, like, closing out this part, I will say, like, the Southern Cross is good, but it's very broad, I think, in its representation. Like,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
just think, and I think you think that Australia can do better. And so, like, what is the? Tell us a little bit about the golden. And this is going to be a multi-part question. I apologize, but like
Sure. No
a
worries.
little bit about the Golden Wattle.
Hmm.
I think we've kind of covered the impetus for it, like why. But
Hmm.
help us like cover uh, exactly like how you designed it, like where your brain was starting from and where you
Sure.
got to, what the colors represent, what the symbol represent, like a little bit of everything there.
Sure. Sure. So I designed the Golden Wattle flag in around 2015. So when the Australia New Zealand flag debate was sort of underway,
Right. Okay.
um, and as I mentioned before, I noticed there were a lot of new flag designs, proposals for new Australian national flag designs, sort of appearing daily. And I noticed a lot of them, they tended to take sort of elements from the current flag and then morph them into sort of these new designs. And, some were successful, some not so much.
Hmm.
Um, and often, more than often, the case was kind of this sort of hybrid kind of Frankenstein flag with too many symbols or too many colors. Just
Hmm.
it is very challenging to take another flag and then repurpose it with a new
Yeah.
design, and it rarely works. So, and a lot of them use the same symbols. It was often, the Commonwealth Star or the Southern Cross. Maybe kangaroos, boomerangs, all those things. So I wanted to design a flag that took inspiration from existing symbols, but didn't sort of repurpose, other flags. I wanted to create almost a new symbol. Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I came up with this idea for the golden wattle, the emblem on the flag is called the wattle star. Um, yeah, so if you haven't seen the flag, it's basically a green field with a yellow emblem in the center. Yellow emblem is made up of seven sort of circular shapes, uh, and in the middle, in the sort of negative space in the middle of the emblem, you can see a seven-pointed Commonwealth star. So, or it's also known as the Federation Star, which basically symbolises the six Australian states, and the seventh point represents the territories and future states, which sounds kind of cool. I
Mm.
don't know actually what that means. It's like a sci-fi movie.
Just planning ahead,
Yeah, planning ahead.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and so the golden wattle is Australia's national flower, and our national colours, green and gold, are derived from the yellow blossom of the wattle flower, and the green leaves.
Right.
So, kind of in a nutshell, the flag symbolises our national flower, our national colours, and the national star being the Commonwealth Star.
Yeah. I wanted to get,
Yeah.
okay. So you got actually pretty far into the star. You said it's seven pointed, six for the states and seven for like an aspirational, maybe to come state or
Yeah,
territory or whatever, right?
territories. Yeah, existing territories. There's two territories, and then
Right.
yeah, future states. I'm not sure what that. I think
And
that
that
is
is
if.
in line with the seven pointed star that the viewers can see on the current Australia flag. And, listeners can look it up too. They probably know it.
Yeah.
Um, so you said you got the colors. The gold is from the wattle itself. The other is from the
Hmm.
leaves. And I think like the thing that I know them from is the national football team. But I'm guessing it dates from before that.
The colours had actually been around for a lot longer. It sort of goes way back to sort of the early 1900s when Australia was kind of federated and became a nation.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, Australians, um, not Indigenous Australians, but other Australians saw themselves as kind of British. And then over time, they developed their own sort of Australian identity. And they were looking for, symbols that represented Australia. That
Mm-hmm.
and the green and gold were originally used by the Australian cricket team as a way of kind of differentiating themselves from the British team who they were playing, and they went on to beat, by
Probably
the
pretty frequently, I would imagine at the
way.
time. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's sort of the wattle, the golden wattle, was seen as kind of a symbol of Australia, of this land, and those colours used by the cricket team over time, were picked up by the Olympic team and other sports team, and ultimately they became the national colours just through sport, because that's already one of the only places where you can get to, fly your national flag and wear your national colours in
Mm-hmm.
international sporting events. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, so it was they're really, the colours just come from, they're sort of inspired by the wattle, by the yellow blossom and the green leaves of the wattle. That's why our colours are green and gold. Um, and as far as the plant goes, golden wattle is um, it's basically in every state and across the whole country. So um, it's sort of in every ecosystem as well. So
What
it's a
the
very
wattle itself is like the actual
yeah,
plant.
yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
that's why it was chosen as a national flower. So,
Oh, okay, because it is like literally the national flower. It grows like whatever territory, say whatever you're in.
yeah,
If you
it's
go far enough within that, you can find a golden wattle.
yeah, yeah, it's the
Okay,
largest genus of flower in Australia. So
did not
there's
know that.
literally thousands of thousands of versions of wattle. So it's, yeah, amazing.
Does it like? Will it try to kill me if I go there?
It's it. Sorry.
No, no, no. Your dog has opinions on this, and I appreciate that.
Sorry.
He's like, yes, yes, it will try to kill you. He'll tell you otherwise.
I'll just
No,
go
we can
deal with
keep
this
this
for
in.
one
This is
sec.
comedy gold. Oh, okay, okay.
Sorry, one sec.
Okay, right, right, right. Okay, that makes total sense with the colors, the design, all that. I do have a question. All right, so the Northern Territory flag, right?
Yeah.
That has the colors are completely different, but it
Hmm.
does have a very similar design to the golden wattle on the, I guess, the fly side, whereas the hoist side has the Southern Cross.
Yeah.
The, I'm gonna go ahead and like go out on a limb here and say the Northern Territory flag is the best flag in Australia, and I'm not
I
taking other opinions on that. And
I agree.
but
I
like,
agree.
but like, how much did that like maybe did that influence your design at all? Were you thinking like, hey, this is the most successful one, let's do something that plays off that, or was yours completely different?
It wasn't actually a source of inspiration as such, but yeah, they definitely look very similar, and yeah, and I've always thought that the flag of the Northern Territory is a beautiful flag.
Oh,
I think that the emblem represents the Sturt Desert Rose, so it's slightly different than the wattle. Um, but
right.
my feeling is it's good for flags in some sense to resemble other flags that are particularly. It's not uncommon for flags
Yeah.
in regions to represent to be similar in some
Yeah.
ways.
Be
And
distinct or be related. That's one of
yeah,
the
yeah,
rules. Yeah.
exactly. Um, yeah, it's also amazing that to have a flag that has the color ochre in it, which is so kind of rare.
Right.
I don't
That
know.
is not typical. Like we talk a decent amount here on the pod about like colors that aren't typical, but usually we're
Mhm.
talking about purple and orange. And I guess technically kind of a shade of orange. It's between orange
Yeah,
and red and yellow. Like, I don't know. It kind of like, almost checks all those boxes, really.
Yeah,
To me, it's
and
closest to orange, but I live in Tennessee, so that might be my bias. So
yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I've designed a few flags myself that have ochre in them. It's very, as an Australian, it's very sort of evocative of the outback and sort of Central Australia. These sort of wide open spaces and deserts, and to me, it feels like a very Australian color ochre. Along with green and
sure,
gold, of
no, that
course.
makes sense.
Yeah. I could also say one of the nice things about the emblem on the Northern Territory flag is that it also is used. It sort of can be extricated from the flag itself, and it's used as sort of a symbol for Northern Territory. And so that was something I'd kept in mind when designing the Golden Wattle flag, that it could be used
Right.
in different places apart from a flag. So as badges or icons and
Right.
social
No, yeah.
media. Yeah.
That makes total sense. Like, yeah. I can see where you got it. I can see like where the colors come from now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it all makes sense. Like, I definitely like. I would love to see a new flag for Australia, because like it breaks my heart when you guys show up at every World Cup wearing your like kits of like yellow and green and everything, and then you're flying like a flag that has none of those colors on it.
Yeah.
It almost like, to the modern mind, it seems foolish. Like, it's, what are we doing here, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. It's just it's strange. I mean, as an Australian, you see it. Like recently, we had the women's World Cup soccer here, and you would see these games with a sort of sea of green and gold, and then sprinkled throughout that is these red, white, and blue flags, which is completely kind of different, incongruous flag. It's just, it's strange. We should really have a flag that is symbolic.
Right. I think that should be like a major, like, it's not right now, but I think it should be a major guiding principle in flag design, where, I don't have a great way to like state it, or I wouldn't, put it into legalese this way, but a nation, a country, let's call it a nation, because, Wales, Scotland, like a lot of them have their own independent teams, regardless of what country or whatever they're technically part of. But a nation should have a flag that reflects the colors of its kits, or have kits that reflect the colors of its flag. And for Australia, like, it doesn't make sense to have red, white, and blue kits, because guess who else has that? Fucking everybody. Sorry, I was gonna mark this one explicit now, I guess. But like, but like, it only makes sense for, and I like the Golden Wattle flag a lot, but I'm open to something else becoming the national flag, as long as it follows certain things that I have in my mind. And one of those things is color scheme. I don't know, like, it only makes sense to me that Australia would change it, and yet they have been so hesitant. Do you see? And I know this is not in the things that I sent you that we would talk about today, but I do really want to know, like, do you see a change happening anytime in the near future, the future at all? Yeah, I guess take it from there.
Yeah, I do see a change in the future, maybe not the near future, but I think, Australia is, strangely, it's an old country, but also a very young country as well. And so, our national identity as such is kind of being defined still, and there's a bit of a battle going on of how we want to see ourselves. And so the flag is kind of wrapped up in that, and ultimately will be symbolic of that. And so I think once that, maybe in the future when Australia has a stronger sense of what it means to be Australian, that may be an impetus for the flag to change. But and also, like I mentioned before, a lot of people sort of tied into this republic, whether it's and of course you don't need to change your flag if you become a republic, but most republics have their own flag. So it would seem silly to have, even more silly now, to have Union Jack on a flag if we did have the king as our head of state. So not to get too political,
no, I mean, it's almost common sense type stuff at that point, to me anyway.
So I think if that ever happens, which it could happen in the next, I'm not going to say soon, but that may be the reason why Australia changes the flag if we become a republic. So,
right. So you think I'm trying to think of how to put this. Would you say that Australia lacks a national identity, or would you say that Australia is in search of a national identity, which is maybe the middle ground, or would you say that Australia has a national identity that just isn't being represented?
Yeah, I would say that the latter. We have a strong national identity, as every country does, I guess. But
that's the feeling I get. Yeah.
But I just don't think it's particularly well represented by the current flag. And and obviously a lot of people would argue that it's representative of Australia's history as a British colony, but that's not really the purpose of a flag, as a national flag as such. It's it should represent the nation we are today as well. So, and it should be inclusive and represent all people, all Australians. Every Australian, I guess, should be able to look at their flag and feel kind of a sense of belonging and pride.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we talk a lot about on this show about flags being a I guess almost like a storyteller. Like a flag is almost the same thing to me and to a lot of our listeners as the Bayou Tapestry. It's almost the same thing. Yeah. Really, it does tell a story, and Australia's is telling. This is my words, not yours, but what I think right now is that Australia's flag tells the opening part of the story, but it doesn't tell even the middle, and it definitely doesn't tell the current.
Exactly.
And there's a place for that, but I think it's in history books.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yep, I totally agree. Yeah.
And I don't know. I've a better way to put it than that. We'll wrap up fairly soon, but I did want to know, is there one or two other state or territory flags that you would do a little differently?
So, some flags for Australia is basically an Instagram page where I've redesigned all of Australia's state flags. Mm-hmm. And one of the territory flags, I redesigned the Australian Capital Territory flag. So there's a range of different designs for each state. Most of them, all of them, sort of use symbols that are kind of recognizable, sort of local symbols, I guess, or regional symbols that are already established, or color palettes that are already established that are associated with those states, of course.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and so these are really just none of them are official. They're just kind of ideas and designs for new Australian flags is how I tout it. And it sort of asks that question. So if currently all the Australian state flags are defaced blue ensigns similar to the national flag.
Yeah.
And they're not particularly well loved or even used. In fact,
that was my other... and sorry to butt in here, but I did actually have a listener that asked basically a piggyback question on that, which is how often are the state flags flown? Is me summarizing the question, because in the US it depends on the state. It depends on how good the flag is.
Yeah.
Is it the same in Australia?
Yeah, they're all virtually identical apart from the badging on them. So that's a big problem as well.
Yeah.
So they're not particularly distinct. They're not representative of the region that they're supposed to be symbolizing. And so that's why they're not really used, because you would rarely ever see a state flag flown at a sports event, for example. Mm-hmm. If you had two states competing against each other, people aren't going to come out of there with their British defaced blue ensign because it's identical to the team they're playing. So
you have a hard time telling.
It doesn't really work.
Which is the exact problem, but go on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, in a way, I think there would always be a stronger case for Australians to get their head around if we were pushing for the state flags to change, because I think most people would just be like, we have state flags? Really? I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So, most of the time you just see them flying on government buildings. That's pretty much the only place you see them. Yeah. So
Do you so wait, which state do you live in? You're in Sydney, you said.
I'm in New South
Is
Wales.
that New
Yeah, but
South?
I grew
Okay,
up
I was going to say New
New
South
South Wales.
Wales,
Yeah.
but I think that pretty much like you said, the New South Wales has the Union Jack and Canton, right?
Yes. Yeah. All
Okay,
the states do. Yeah.
and all of them except all the states do. The Northern Territory is
Yeah.
a territory, and the
Australian
flag is a little
Capital
bit different.
Territory is the other one too. They have, they have a similar format to the
Yeah.
Northern Territory flag with the sort of panel
Yeah.
in the hoist side, which is kind of, we call it here, it's sort of an Australian pale, which I don't know where that came from. It's not technically a pale, but it'll do, I guess, isn't it? It's a
I bet
description
it
of that
comes
type of
from
flag.
the Canadian pale. Like
Yeah,
honestly, I bet the parlance anyway, not the actual design,
yes,
but
yeah.
yeah.
So with the flags for Australia, I have designed a series of state flags that follow this Australian pale format, so that they
Oh,
pull it in line with the Northern Territory flag, I guess.
right.
So I have they're all different, but there's sort of three styles. So one style follows the Australian pale. So I've done a full series of state flags that follow the Australian pale format. Then I have a second series which has sort of a connecting horizontal division, which sort of represents a horizon, kind of similar to the Aboriginal flag, but a bit
Okay.
lower.
Yep.
So that connects them all. And then there's like a third version where each state flag is unique, because there's an argument that, that the flags don't necessarily the state flags need to represent their local regions. They don't need to look like their neighbour, though other people feel that they should all look the same. So they're just a set, I guess. So that's why you have the Australian pale version. So there's kind of options there for people to choose and discuss and decide which direction they kind of like, I guess.
Yeah, and that's like kind of like what we, it's the be distinct or be related principle, more or less. It's
Exactly.
just that you and I think that they can be related on a better level than having a Union Jack and Canton.
Oh yes, totally. Yeah.
And a ton of other people, it turns out.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's interesting. There's there is definitely a large group of people in Australia, mostly younger people, I would say, that are really keen to have flags that represent where they live, and they're super excited by the idea. And it's kind of an interesting point of discussion.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we're getting into not uncharted, but like things that I don't have questions for on here. But things that I'm just like, thinking of on the spot, and like, yeah. So you said not super common for people in certain states or territories to fly their state or territorial flag.
No.
What are city flags like in Australia? Is that even a thing? And
it is a thing.
And if it is a thing, are they flown? Like, what's the usage? I gather by your tone and your facial expression that it's not like a huge thing.
No, they're not. They're similar to the state flags. So they're
okay, all right,
particularly well known. They're kind of strange. Some of them are very strange flags.
Dude, I bet the strange ones get like probably more shine than the normal ones.
Yeah, strange in not a good way. Yeah, I don't know. They're not particularly. They're not. I really rarely see them flying except on buildings. So, that would be something I'd be curious to get into too. Is doing city flags would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're hugely popular in the US at the moment. So,
oh my goodness, yeah, they are. Yeah, they're flying off the shelves in the US at the moment because, like, I think we're at like a flashpoint here, at least in the US, and I think kind of globally with vexillology, which is very exciting. I've gone into this like some on previous episodes, but I think we are at the most exciting time to be a part of this hobby field, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I agree.
In that a lot more people are paying attention to such things. And I think that's like the inciting incident. It's like the first step is just for people to even pay attention to what is my city flag? What is my state flag? Obviously you probably know your national flag, but like there's levels of county flags, at least here in the US, most places. And people are becoming like a little bit more cognizant, a little bit more aware of like these things that at least in name represent them. And people are buying and flying a lot more of them, which I do like to see if they're good designs. And a lot of them are not.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Right. We have a long way to go here in the States. You have a long way, it sounds like, over there too.
We do,
does Sydney even like have a flag, or is that?
It does. Yeah, maybe look it up. It's
flag of the city of. Oh goodness, no! It's not that. It can't be that. Yeah, no, there's no way it's that. Oh, that's upsetting.
Yeah, they're very sort of, they're just very colonial kind of era flags that are sort of largely meaningless to people today.
Okay, so
yeah,
I assume we're looking at the same thing. Do you want to? We're closing now, but do you want to describe this monstrosity, or do you want me to try to?
Can you try?
I can try. All right.
I actually don't know the complete meaning behind all these symbols, and it's often the case with some of these flags. Even the flag of Queensland has a Maltese cross on it, and no one knows why. It's just like somebody at some time picked it as a symbol for Queensland, and there's no real consensus of why. So this is not uncommon.
That is interesting. Do you know when it dates from, like era wise, like broad strokes wise, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact date. No,
I was gonna say, because the Maltese flag, like itself, has an OBE on it, like the Order of the British Empire, like St. George's Cross is in Canton. It is the only. I've used this on trivia a couple times, but it's the only flag that uses a different country's, order / whatever, in its flag. And it's for a good reason. Like Malta during World War II, like held out, and like, there's a good reason behind it, but it's still bizarre when you get down to the nitty gritty of like, why is that on there kind of thing? And a Maltese cross on something else, I can't imagine like why that's there, but
yeah, I think it was, sometimes these things were just chosen by the person who was, in charge on the day, and it was probably just their personal taste. It's crazy.
This one is bizarre. I'm going to do my absolute best in the shortest amount of time on this one. So it is broadly speaking, it's a tri-band. Let's ignore the top band for now. Let's say that the middle is yellow, the bottom is blue. And on the blue and yellow, there is I don't know if that's a frigate or what it is. It's a ship with 3 masts. Above all of them is the St. George's Cross, kind of on a pennant, facing toward the hoist of what would, be the flag. And then the top stripe is 3 different flags. The left one looks a bit like Bedfordshire, England.
Oh, yeah.
With the shells. Mixed with the ermine things of like Brittany, some Celtic place, like that one's confusing to me. And it has the crescent moon, but like with the opening facing up, and it's in yellow, which is a different color to the rest of it. The middle one is a St. George's Cross with what I want to say are 6-pointed stars on the, north and south, the top and bottom. But they almost look like starfish. They look like critters.
Yeah. I think they're starfish.
They look like critters. and in the middle is what I assume is supposed to be the globe seen from God knows where.
I think that might be the journey of the first fleet, British first fleet to Australia. I think that's what that is.
Dude, I think you're right, because that is literally, that's the only thing that can be.
Yeah.
I see it now, but that's the only thing that it can be. Island hopping around to unrelated places before they finally figured out where Australia was.
Looks like they were lost along the way.
It's like a ringing endorsement. Yeah. Hey, we're only here because people stumbled upon us. Great. And then the top right, that's on that same stripe, from what I can tell. All right. So the bottom part, broadly, the bottom 2/3 are the Isle of Anglesey in Wales.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. That chevron that goes up there, and then the 3 lions rampant.
Yeah.
That is the flag of Anglesey, the Isle of Anglesey. The two red roses, I think those are red roses, on top, they're red roses, so I believe they are the Lancaster roses.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they look like
War
it.
of the Roses fame, the Yorks and
Yeah.
Lancasters and all that. And they are set off, they're kind of in like a white part of the flag almost like gives up at a certain point. And that's the best way I can put it. And they're like there. And then again, there's another little crescent moon at the top of the chevron that faces up. But
it's crazy, isn't it? It's such a complicated flag, a flag within a flag within a flag.
Yeah, my best guess would all right, if the top left were more Scottish, but it's not, I would have said, all right, look, that's Scotland, England, and Wales coming to colonize Australia. But the top left one is not. The colors are Scottish, but other than that, it's not super. Maybe it's a little Celtic with the ermine things like Brittany, but
yeah, it's. I mean, this is not a flag you would see flying around.
We're getting into.
Like, I mean, I've lived here for a long time, and I don't.
You've never seen this?
I don't think I've ever seen this.
Okay, yeah, I do.
It must be somewhere. It's probably like on Town Hall or something. But yeah, it's not a popular flag. It's not definitely not used by the local population here.
Yeah, dude, I still cannot get over that middle top segment of the journey.
Yeah, it's
because it looks like somebody went on like I don't know. I grew up with like kid pics. Like it looks like somebody went on kid pics and just like went, and then they went here, and then they went there. They stopped by the Galapagos, and then they went here. It's
like, then they were attacked by a giant starfish, and
right, yeah, one to the south,
two
one to the north.
Giant starfish.
Yeah, they got sandwiched by starfish.
They came
the whole thing.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah, this flag definitely tells a story, but I don't think it's the story that they wanted to tell.
Yeah, no. I think I might need to tackle this one.
You absolutely need to, dude. And we'll start to wrap up there because you have.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, you have not just the Golden Wattle. You have a lot of different designs for Australian flags. Where can we find all those and follow those, upvote those, and get them, as visible as possible?
On Instagram, so at Flags for Australia is the Instagram page. I'm also on Threads as well, but
we'll see. We'll see.
We're not getting much. Yeah, Threads is it's still getting going.
Yeah, I'm on that we'll see train too.
Yeah, and you can learn about the Golden Wattle flag on goldenwattleflag.com. There's a full website sort of explains the meaning behind it all.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, goldenwattleflag.com, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have an inkling that the Golden Wattle flag will be more widely available in the States soon, but I'm going to keep that under wraps for now. But if y'all like what you see, and you should, keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man. No, dude, pleasure having you here. This was amazing. I'm so glad to, the time zone was weird, but other than that, we figured it out.
We worked it out, yeah.
Eventually. And I think that's pretty much all I had today. I had notes on how to close the show, but I don't know where I put them.
Oh.
So, yeah, weirdest thing, right?
Yeah.
Never happens. Almost never happens. So I guess Jeremy, if you do me a huge favor, if you could figure out kind of a way to close us out here, that would be incredible.
Sure. I'd love to. I actually have a quote if that's okay.
More than okay.
Yeah. So we've been talking about flag change a lot. And so I found this fantastic quote by Gilbert Baker, designer of the rainbow flag. I'll just read it for you now. Symbols are about visibility, and the power derives from exposure. In this way, they're more like logos than works of art. As we strive for a more just society, we should keep this in mind. It means there's good reason to retire the symbols that impede our progress and to create new ones that carry us forward.
Damn. Well, I am not going to try and top Gilbert Baker.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Yeah, and I know you aren't either. So let's leave it at those expert words right there and just say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. This episode and this show have been flagged for content, and we will see y'all soon. Take care. Flagged for Content is a Flags for Good podcast. Go to flagsforgood.com for more info.